Recording in progress.
All right. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Abba Yah, thank you for this day. I thank you for this opportunity to minister. May your word be edifying to those that hear, and may I not go outside of the boundaries of my being allowed to teach. Let me not draw people away from you, but to draw people closer to you. Let this word come forth and be in truth and integrity of the spirit. Hallelujah. Okay. Shabbat Shalom. Shankul Yah, One Vision Ministry. What I want to talk on today, I want to speak on practicality. And does Yah really know the end from the beginning? So let me get started. I'm gonna share a text and a definition to start off. So let me get started here. Here's the text. The text is from Yeshayah, or Isaiah 46, what would be called verse 9 and 10. It says, "Remember the former events of old, for I am El, and there is no one else." He's saying there's no one else. It's one. Elohim, and there is no one like me. Man was created in his image, but there no one like me, declaring the end from the beginning. So from the beginning, he knows the end. And from of old, that which has not yet been done, saying, my counsel does stand, and all my delight I do. Let me jump over to this definition real quick. Practicalities. The quality of being adapted or designed for actual use, usefulness, or convenience. 2, interest in or inclination towards actual work or activity as opposed to theories or ideas. 3, a detail or consideration involved in putting something into action. 4, the constraints or demands of real life or actual implementation. 5, the quality or fact of relating to actual activity, especially ordinary or everyday activity. So, I know that Yah is perfect, but man, as we see, is not. I believe that he had the intent to make man perfect, but yet, knowing the end from the beginning, he made provision for that imperfection that man would have. A lot of that brings forth argument, and emotions come into play. What people feel, they sometimes put in place to overrule what Yahuah is attempting to have manifest. So again, let's start off. Let's go back into sharing the screen and show one of the things that come into play that many have a disagreement with, or we see it one way and don't accept the exceptions or the other, I guess, changes that may have occurred. And so we go into Bereshit, or Genesis 1 in verse 26, and it says, and Elohim said, let us make man in our image. Start off there. Is Elohim a physical being? No, he's a spiritual. So thus, in our image, he's making something physical, though he is spirit. This has more to it than what is being said, because he's making something natural when he himself is spiritual. According to our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over all the creeping creatures that creep on the ground. And Elohim created the man in his image. In the image of Elohim, he created him. Male and female, he created them. Now, Elohim being one, male and female, that's more than one. Elohim baruched them, and Elohim said to them, be fruitful and increase, and fill the earth and subdue it, and rule over the fish of the sea, over the birds, over the heavens, and over all the creeping creatures of the earth. So literally, Yah is giving dominion to man over the earth. As he has dominion over the Shamayim in heaven, he's giving dominion to man over the earth. Yah created man perfect. Yah created man without a blemish. Yah created man to live forever. Yah created man without sin. Now, the story, we know that sin did transpire. And upon sin coming into play, the man found out he was naked. So he was originally created naked. How was the man originally to eat? Originally, he had the things of the trees, the things of the ground, fruits, vegetables, herbs, things of that nature. Nothing that was living far as breathing, far as the water, the fish, none of the animals. That was not what was originally given. But now we eat those things. He knew the end from the beginning. So the interesting thing is that when you go further into the story, you see about the Noah situation. Noah separated the animals to clean and unclean. Why would they have the designation of clean and unclean unless he was setting apart what could be eaten and what could not be eaten? Remember, first they were just eating fruits and vegetables, but then that changed. Yah knew this from the beginning. They started wearing clothes. He provided them clothes by killing an animal or giving it, put an animal skin on them. There was no death in the beginning. There was a change. He said, be fruitful and multiply and have dominion over the earth. Be fruitful and multiply. There was no death originally, so why would we think that there would be originally a lack of birth or barrenness? That's something that we deal with now. But we also deal with divorce. And as we see with the law, let me deal with the definition of dominion. I'm going to go back into dominion. I have put the definition, and I'm going to deal with the definition first. All right. The definition of dominion says the power or right of governing and controlling, sovereign authority, rule, control. A territory usually a considerable size in which a single rulership holds sway. A single rulership. Lands or domains subject to sovereignty or control. Government. A territory constituting a self-governing commonwealth and being one of a number of such territories united in a community of nations or empire, formerly applied to self-governing divisions of the British Empire as Canada and New. Well, I'm gonna leave that alone. Okay. One thing I know about Yah is that he is a provider. So Yahuah, Yireh, or Yireh means provider. I'm going to go over here and show you. In the context of religious texts, especially in the Hebrew Bible, Old Testament, Yireh is a Hebrew word that means will provide or shall provide. Practicality. Yah is practical. So, though he set things up perfectly, the fact that we sinned, mankind sinned, he set up provision or set up a way that men could still fulfill his will. It says, it's mostly famously known as a part of the phrase Yahuah Yireh, often translated as Jehovah Jireh, which is described in Genesis 22:14 as the name for Yah. This phrase is translated as Yahuah will provide. So let me move forward. So he will provide. With Noah, he provided an ark, but he also provided clean and unclean. The unclean has a purpose of waste management, but the clean we were given to eat. There are many that teach that, no, you still shouldn't eat that. But they ignore that some people have, I guess, their blood type or whatever basically says they need to have some type of flesh or proteins in their body. But that's not my focus. I want to keep going because I want to show, I guess, how emotions have come into play on some things, like to be fruitful and multiply. That was an original command. And thus, if someone is barren, how do they do that? Then also having dominion. If I have established wealth and I pass it down to my son, and maybe I have multiple sons, but the son I pass down my wealth to, he marries and he dies. I'm gone. But this son that has all my wealth is married to a woman that's not she's not from my family. She's from another family. That son dies with all my wealth. Now it becomes his wife's. I have other sons. Does this woman go and marry someone else of a whole nother family, basically ending my dominion, ending my family line? Or does one of my sons, other sons, come in and take her as a bride, regardless of if he already has a wife or not? If dominion and my lineage or my wealth or my esteem is to be passed on, if it's with that first son only, that woman is taking my wealth elsewhere, and my family line is done. Maybe my son after him could, establish something else, but what I established is gone because it's with that woman. Now, again, I'm talking about Yah being a provider. So, in his law, let's go look. He set forth a provision. Many speak emotionally about polygyny. They have an issue with it. But what did Yah say? Or what did he establish? Let's go. Let's go look at his law. Deuteronomy is a retelling of the law. So let's go over here to Deuteronomy. We're going over to Deuteronomy 25 and 5. Dabarim. And it says, when brothers dwell together, and one of them has died and has no son. It doesn't say daughter, it says son, because heirs are male. The wife takes the stuff over to a new family because it takes she married to a new man, and that man is under his father. So again, when brothers dwell together and one of them has died and has no son, the widow of the dead man shall not become a stranger's outside. So she ain't supposed to marry somebody outside of that family. Her husband brother, regardless if he married or not, does go into her and shall take her as his wife and perform the duty of a husband's brother to her. And it shall be that the firstborn son, that's going to be his heir, which he bears, does rise up for the name of his brother, dead brother. This is keeping the wealth within the family, keeping the name going, so that his name is not blotted out of Israel. But if the man does not desire to take his brother's wife, then let his brother's wife go up to the gate to the elders and say, my husband's brother refuses to raise up a name to his brother in Israel. He does not agree to perform the duty of my husband's brother. The elders of the city shall then call him and speak to him, and he shall stand and say, I have no desire to take her. And then his brother's wife shall come to him in the presence of the elders and remove his sandals from his foot, and shall spit in his face and answer and say, thus is done to the man who does not build up. He doesn't carry on the dominion. He does not build up his brother's house. And in Israel his name shall be called the house of him who had his sandal removed. This is a shameful position, a dishonorable position. I would guarantee modernly, many men would not want to do this because of the emotions of their wives. The foundation of their household is set upon the emotions of their wives. The fact that their wives, no, you can't take on, no, that would be the problem. They would dishonor their fathers and their brother because of emotions. That emotional damage is serious because now your brother doesn't have an heir, and all of the wealth that your father left to that brother, it leaves with that woman. To me, we live in a state of bondage or whatever. You know, we still in our captivity mindset. So we have a poverty mindset. Most of us don't have no wealth, or we got debt. So we ain't, we're like, okay, it ain't no big deal not honoring my brother by taking in his wife because he ain't got nothing. So we don't see no issue with it. But if we gonna return to the original state of dominion, we need to change our minds. How are we gonna let our emotions rule us when dominion is supposed to be the focus? We can't establish no wealth if we constantly letting it leave outside, go somewhere else. That woman is taking all that your brother had elsewhere. But of course, you don't want to offend your wife. You'd rather offend your family, offend the legacy of your brother and the legacy of your father. And as you see, the way it's supposed to be, they're supposed to spit in your face. That's a disgraceful thing. And they're supposed to take off your sandal. But of course, most of y'all still operating in Christianity because you say you ain't under the law. That don't apply. That don't apply. No, you don't have. Because we've been living in a land of bondage and don't know how to operate as dominating people, people that have something. We act like the have-nots, so we okay with just distancing ourselves from laws that Yah put in place for we can be dominate, we can maintain. See, another thing that comes into play with me is okay, we can see that women outnumber the men in our culture, but we okay with some of the daughters having husbands, but not all. And people will say, well, it's one for one, and that's how it's made. Okay. It is, or they say it's not fair that a man could be with multiple, but the woman can't. One of the big things that they ignore and won't tell the truth on is that anybody, if a man lay with any woman and she stays just to him, he knows fully that that's his child. But a woman, she lays with multiple men, she has no idea who the father is unless they do DNA. Also, when a man impregnates a woman, 9 months, she gonna be holding that baby unless she lose it. That man still has seed. He could be creating, be fruitful. He could still be being fruitful. He don't have to stop for that 9 months. That woman does. They're not the same, but people want it to be equal. He could constantly be adding to his family while that woman is still there in her pregnant state. He can be adding to his family. But they say, oh, that's all about lust. But the original command was to be fruitful and multiply. I get it, one for one. But again, we are not in the original state. We are not in the factory designed status that we was. We are not perfect. We have barrenness that goes on, and people will point out, oh, well, all these other polygyny relationships, they were this and that. Where was the sin at? And then what that law I just passed just showed you, what is the requirement? I get it. Me, myself, I don't desire polygyny because I've been married before and I don't want to add headache to my household when I have a Proverbs 31. I enjoy being with my wife and I don't want no stress and no drama to mess up what I got. But again, if y'all say, you know, marry your brother's wife, which, what? Do I disobey y'all? Uh, that's one right there that the emotions gonna overplay so much. So let me keep moving, because I'm gonna show you some stuff that I'm finna get into something that I know is finna bother some people. This right here, when I first read it, it bothered me, but it is what it is. Let's deal with this. Let's deal with this. Shaphatim or Judges 19. It's gonna be a little reading here. A little reading. And it came to be in those days when there was no sovereign in Israel, that there was a certain Levite sojourning on the further side of the mountains of Ephraim. And he took himself a concubine, not a wife, but a concubine from Bethlehem in Yehudah. It's a lot of folks that have a problem with that. They say, oh, he fornicating. Where's that at? He took a concubine. And he was a Levite. So he of the priestly line. Nowhere does it saying that he's sinning. But okay, let's keep going. And his concubine committed whoring. So she was doing some things that wasn't right. Didn't say he was, but she was. And his concubine committed whoring against him and went away from him to her father's house of Bethlehem in Yehudah and was there for 4 new moons of days. Now, honestly, we can't even say that this woman was having sex. It says she's whoring. So basically, she not doing what he says. She going about to her father's house, probably without his permission. So I'm not going to even say that she was having sexual situation, but she went against his will because it's not really clear. When we hear the word whoring, because this is English, we think that she was having sex, but I'm not going to even say she was doing that. But she went about to her father's house without him giving the okay. So let's keep going. And her husband arose and went after her to speak to her heart and bring her back, having his servant and a couple of donkeys with him. And she brought him into her father's house. And the father of the young woman saw him, and he was glad to meet him. And his father in law, the young woman's father, took hold of him, and he dwelt with him 3 days. And they ate and drank and spent the nights there. Now I'm this gonna be longer than what it's supposed to be because honestly, I'm going back further to give some, because where I'm trying to get to is a little further ahead. But let me keep going. Let me not hold you up. And it came to be on the fourth day that they arose early in the morning, the beginning of the day, and he prepared to leave. But the young woman's father said to his son-in-law, refresh your heart with a piece of bread, and afterward go your way. So he trying to get him to stay and not go his way. So they sat down, and two of them ate and drank together. And the young woman's father said to the man, please agree to stay all night, and let your heart be glad. And when the man arose to go, his father-in-law urged him, so he spent the night there again. And he rose early in the morning on the fifth day to go, but the young woman's father said, please refresh your heart. So they delayed until afternoon, and both of them ate. And the man arose to go, he and his concubine and his servant. But the father-in-law, the young woman's father, said to him, see, the day is now drawing toward evening. Please spend the night. See, the day is coming to an end. Stay here and let your heart be glad, and you rise early tomorrow for your journey, and you shall go to your tent. But the man would not stay that night, and he arose and left, and came to a place opposite Jebus, that is Jerusalem, and with him were the two saddled donkeys and his concubine with him. They were near Jebus, and the day was far spent. And the servant said to his master, come, please, and let us turn aside into the city of the Jebusites and spend the night in it. And the master said to him, let us not turn aside here into a city of foreigners who are not of the children of Israel, but we shall pass over to Geba. And he said to his servant, come, let us draw near to one of these places and spend the night in Geba or Ramah. And they passed over and went there, and the sun went down on them near Geba, which belongs to Benjamin. That's key. Belongs to Benjamin. And they turned off there to go in to spend the night in Geba. So he went in, and he sat down in the open square of the city, for no one would take them into the house to spend the night. But see, an old man came in from his work in the field at the evening, who also was from the mountains of Ephraim, and he was sojourning in Geba, whereas the men of the place were Benjamites. And when he lifted up his eyes, he saw the traveler in the open square of the city, and the old man said, where are you going, and where do you come from? And he said to him, we are passing over from Bethlehem in Yehudah to the other side of the mountains of Ephraim. I am from there, and I went to Bethlehem in Yehudah, and I am going to the house of Yahuah. But there is no one taking me into his house. Now, this is a custom in Israel. We supposed to take in fellow Israelites. That's what but I'm not going to go to that law, but let me keep going. Yet there is both straw and fodder for our donkeys, and bread and wine for myself and for your female servant. and for your young man who is with your servant. There is no lack of any matter. And the old man said, Peace be with you. He said, Shalom. However, let all your needs be on me. Only do not spend the night in the open square. So he's showing hospitality. And he brought him into his house and gave fodder to his donkeys, and they washed their feet and ate and drank. They were making their hearts glad, and see, men of the city, sons of Belial, surrounded the house. These some Benjamites beating on the door, and they spoke to the master of the house, the old man, saying, Bring out the man who came to your house, so that we know him. Let me read that again. Bring out the man, not his concubine, but the man who came to your house, so that we know him. These Benjamites were trying to rape or have sex with this man. They wanted to know him. They wanted to have intimacy with him. But the man, the master of the house, went out to them and said to them, No, my brothers, I beg you, do no evil, since this man has come into my house. Do not do this folly. Now we know that man is supposed to be with woman, but these men were trying to be with a man. Look, here is my maiden daughter, my young daughter, and this man's concubine. Let me bring them out now and humble them. Lay with them and do with them what is good in your eyes, but do not do such a foolish matter to this man. So he protected the man, but he willing to give up his daughter and the concubine. Now again, emotions, I know emotions right there is hidden. Because when I first read that, it was like, man, why are they doing this to these women, like, willing to give them up like that? But this is something in the word. Let me keep going. But the men would not listen to him. So the man took hold of his concubine and brought her out to them, and they knew her and rolled themselves on her all night until morning. So what it said, they knew her. They had sex with her all night until morning and let her go when the day began to break. And as morning appeared, the woman came back and fell down at the door of the man's house where her master was till it was light. And her master rose up in the morning and opened the doors of the house and went out to go his way and saw his concubine fallen at the door of the house with her hands on the threshold. And he said to her, Rise up and let us go. They raped her all night, but there was no answer. Then he took her on the donkey, and the man rose and went to his place. And he came into his house and took a knife, because she was dead, then took hold of his concubine and cut her up limb by limb into 12 pieces and sent her throughout all the borders of Israel. So it's 12 tribes. He cut her into 12 pieces and he sent her throughout all the borders of Israel. And it came to be that all who saw it, there has never been and there has not been seen the like of this from the day that the children of Israel came up from the land of Mizraim into this day. Set your heart on it, take counsel, and speak up. Okay, let's go over to 20. Shaphatim, Judges 20. And all the children of Israel came out from Dan to Beersheba and from the land of Gilead, and the congregation assembled as one man before Yahuah at Mizpah. And the leaders of all the people, all the tribes of Israel, presented themselves in the assembly of the people of Elohim, 400,000 foot soldiers who drew the sword. And the children of Benjamin heard that the children of Israel had gone up to Mizpah. And the children of Israel said, Speak up. How did this evil come about? They questioned him. And the man, the Levite, husband of the woman who was murdered. So now they calling her husband of the woman, not just concubine, answered and said, My concubine. And I went into Gibeah, which belongs to Benjamin, to spend the night. And the masters of Gibeah rose against me and surrounded the house at night because of me. They thought to kill me, but instead they humbled my concubine and she died. So they raped her, but they wanted to kill him. Then I took my concubine and cut her in pieces and sent her throughout all the land of the inheritance of Israel because they committed wickedness and folly in Israel. Look, you are all children of Israel. Speak and give your counsel here. He wanted judgment. Now, this seems like I'm long-winded, but I'm going to get to what I want to talk to. You know, and all the people rose as one man, saying, let not one of us go to his tent, nor any of us turn back to his house. And now, this is what we do to Gibeah, go against it by lot. So they're going to go to war against Benjamin. And we shall take 10 men out of every 100 throughout all the tribes of Israel, and 100 out of every 1,000, and 1,000 out of every 10,000 to make food for the people to prepare for their going to Gibeah in Benjamin for all the folly they did in Israel. Now you don't see that they went to Yahuah in any of this, but they finna go against them, against Benjamin. And all the men of Israel were gathered against the city, knit together as one man. And the tribes of Israel sent men through all the tribe of Benjamin, saying, what is this evil that has come about among you? And now give us the men, the sons of Belial, who are in Gibeah, so that we put them to death and put away evil from Israel. But the children of Benjamin would not listen to the voice of their brothers, the children of Israel. So the children of Benjamin gathered together from their cities to Gibeah to go to battle against the children of Israel. And from their cities at that time, the children of Benjamin registered 26,000 men who drew the sword, besides the inhabitants of Gibeah, who registered 700 chosen men. Among all this people, there were 700 chosen men who were left-handed. Each one could sling a stone at a hair's breadth and not miss. They were very accurate. And besides Benjamin, the men of Israel registered 400,000 men who drew the sword. All of these were men of battle. And the children of Israel rose and went up to Bethel to ask Elohim. Now they're going to ask Yah. And they said, who of us go up first to battle against the children of Benjamin? And Yahuah said, Yahudah first. We already know that Yahudah's first, but, I'm going to keep reading, because Yahudah's first on everything. That's where we got Yahusha. But let's keep going. And the children of Israel rose up in the morning and camped against Gibeah. And the men of Israel went out to battle against Benjamin. And the men of Israel put themselves in battle array to fight against them at Gibeah. And the children of Benjamin came out of Gibeah, and on that day cut down to ground 20,000 men of Israel. Look at how many Benjamin stood together and they killed all these men of Israel, their brethren. But the people, the men of Israel, strengthened themselves and again formed the battle line at the place where they had put themselves in array on the first day. And the children of Israel went up and wept before Yahuah until evening and asked Yahuah, saying, should I again draw near the battle against the children of my brother Benjamin? And Yahuah said, go up against him. And the children of Israel drew near to the children of Benjamin on the second day. And Benjamin went out against them from Gibeah on the second day and cut down to the ground 18,000 more of the children of Israel. They killing these children of Israel like you got one tribe handling 11 other tribes like they ain't nothing. 18,000 more of the children of Israel, all these drew the sword. And the children of Israel, even all the people, went up and came to Bethel and wept and sat there before Yahuah and fasted that day until evening. And they offered ascending offerings and peace offerings before Yahuah. And the children of Israel asked of Yahuah, the ark of the covenant of Elohim was there in those days. And Phinehas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron, stood before it in those days, saying, should I yet again go out to battle against the children of my brother Benjamin? or should I cease? And Yahuah said, Go up, for tomorrow I give them into your hand. And Israel set ambushes all around Gibeah. And the children of Israel went up against the children of Benjamin on the third day, and put themselves in battle array against Gibeah, as at the other times. And the children of Benjamin came out to meet the people, drawn away from the city. And they began to strike some of the people slain, as at the other times in the highways, of which one went up to Bethel, and the other to Gibeah in the field, about 30 men of Israel. And the children of Benjamin said, They are going to be smitten before us, as previously. So Benjamin is confident. But the children of Israel said, Let us flee and draw them away from the city and to the highways. And all the men of Israel rose from their place and put themselves in battle array at Baal Tamar. And the ambush of Israel broke forth from their position at Ma'ara Leba. And 10,000 chosen men from all Israel came against Gibeah, and the battle was fierce. But they did not know that calamity was close to them. And Yahuah smote Benjamin before Israel. So Yah got in the mix. And the children of Israel destroyed 25,100 men on that day in Benjamin. All these drew the sword. And the children of Benjamin saw that they were smitten, and the men of Israel had given ground to the Benjamites, because they trusted in the ambush that they had set against Gibeah. And the ambush hurried and came against Gibeah, and the ambush spread out and struck the entire city with the edge of the sword. And the appointed signal between the men of Israel and the ambush was that they would make a great cloud of smoke rise up from the city. Then the men of Israel would turn in battle, and Benjamin began to strike dead about 30 of the men of Israel, for they said, They are indeed smitten before us, as the first battle. Then the cloud began to rise from the city in the column of smoke, and the Benjamites looked behind them and saw the entire city going up in smoke to the heavens. And when the men of Israel turned back, the men of Benjamin were troubled, for they saw that calamity was close to them. And they turned their backs, and before the men of Israel toward the way of the wilderness, but the battle overtook them, while those who had come out of the cities were destroying them in their midst. They surrounded the Benjamites and pursued them, and with ease trampled them down as far as the front of Gibeah toward the east. And there fell of Benjamin 18,000 men. All of those were mighty men. And they turned and fled toward the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon. And they cut down 5,000 of them on the highways, and followed after them up to Gedam, and struck 2,000 of them. And all who fell of Benjamin that day were 25,000 men who drew the sword. All of these were mighty men. But 600 men turned and fled toward the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon. And they dwelt at the rock of Rimmon for 4 new moons, 4 months. And the men of Israel turned back against the children of Benjamin, and struck them with the edge of the sword from every city, men and beasts, all who were found, and they set fire to the cities they came to. So they coming against Benjamin. But of course, we know that there still was a tribe of Benjamin afterwards, so let's keep going. Because now I'm going to get into the practicality aspect. Let's get there, that I want to talk about. And the men of Israel had sworn an oath at Mizpah, saying, Not one of us shall give his daughter to Benjamin as a wife. So, where are they going to get wives from? Because they went into the city and burnt that up. So let me go. So the people came to Bethel and sat there until evening before Elohim, and lifted up their voices and wept bitterly, and said, O Yahuah, Elohim of Israel, why has this come about in Israel, that today there should be one tribe missing in Israel? And it came to be on the morrow that the people rose early and built a slaughter place there and brought ascending offerings and peace offerings. And the children of Israel said, who is there among all the tribes of Israel who did not come up with the assembly to Yahuah? For they had made a great oath concerning anyone who had not come up to Yahuah at Mizpah, saying, he shall certainly be put to death. And the children of Israel were sorry for Benjamin, their brother, and said, one tribe is cut off from Israel today. What do we do for wives for those who remain, seeing we have sworn by Yahuah not to give them our daughters as wives? Let's get to these practicalities. And they said, which of the tribes of Israel did not come up to Mizpah to Yahuah? And see, no one had come up to the camp from Yabesh Gilead to the assembly. For when the people called a roll, see, not one of the inhabitants of Yabesh Gilead was there. And the congregation sent out there 12,000 of their bravest men and commanded them, saying, go, and you shall strike the inhabitants of Yabesh Gilead with the edge of the sword, even the women and the children. Kill them all. And this is what you do. Put under the band every male and every woman who has known a man by lying with him. Every male and every woman, basically every woman that wasn't a virgin, what we call modernly a virgin. And they found among the inhabitants of Yabesh Gilead 400 young maidens who had not known a man. And they brought them to the camp of Shiloh, which is in the land of Canaan. Then all the congregation sent and spoke to the children of Benjamin, who were at the rock of Rimmon, and proclaimed peace to them. And Benjamin turned back at that time, and they gave them the women whom they had saved alive of the women of Yabesh Gilead. Now, this is what men are doing as practicality, but let's keep going. But even so, there were not enough for them. And the people were sorry for Benjamin because Yahuah had made a breach in the tribes of Israel. And the elders of the congregation said, what do we do for wives for those who remain, since women have been destroyed out of Benjamin? And they said, there is an inheritance for the survivors of Benjamin, and no tribe is to be destroyed from Israel. But we are unable to give them wives from our daughters, for the children of Israel have sworn an oath, saying, cursed be the one who gives a wife to Benjamin. So they said, see, there is a yearly festival of Yahuah in Shiloh, which is north of Bethel on the east side, on the highway of it goes up from Bethel to Shechem and south of Lebanon. And they commanded the children of Benjamin, saying, go, lie in wait in the vineyards, and watch and see. When the daughters of Shiloh come out to perform their dances, then you shall come out from the vineyards, and every man catch a wife for himself from the daughters of Shiloh, and go to the land of Benjamin. Now, this again, men are setting up something. But again, we talked about provision and Yah knowing the end from the beginning. So did he know that Benjamin was going to do this? Did he know that they were going to set it up so that these men can take daughters at these feasts for wives? And it shall be when their fathers or their brothers come to us to complain that we shall say to them, favor us with them, because we did not take a wife for any of them in battle. Neither have you given them to them, making yourselves guilty of your oath. And the children of Benjamin did so, and took enough wives for their number for those who danced, whom they caught. Then they went and returned to their inheritance, and they rebuilt their cities and dwelt in them. And the children of Israel went from there at that time, each one to his tribe and clan, and they went from there, each one to his inheritance. In those days, there was no sovereign in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. Yahuah allowed that. It's a hot mess. But Yahuah allowed that. Benjamin existed after that, even though the ruling is that they couldn't have wives from the other one. They got wives that they snatched. The men set this in motion, but Yahuah allowed it. I'm not gonna put that as a practicality, I guess, of Yah, but it's still something that was allowed. Pretty interesting to me. Just like polygyny, something that's allowed, not a sin, because if it was a sin, the whole 12 tribes of Israel would be labeled sin, and Yah used that to make the foundation of his kingdom. Yaakov had 4 women provide him 12 sons. Many will say, well, he was tricked into his second wife. His first wife. She was his first wife. He got tricked into her. And this is something that, definitely, I agree, definitely was tricked. But still, he was not tricked into the maid servants, Bilhah and Zilpah. They were given. He wasn't tricked into them. Moses had multiple wives. Going back to the original concept, though, be fruitful and multiply was the command. And how do you do that with a barren wife? It was many barren wives that, and to look at the situation, there was a mini situation where there was a barren wife and another wife that had children. I think Samuel's mother was one of those barren wives. Solomon, no, not Solomon. Solomon was a child of multiple wives, but Bathsheba. But before that, because she was stolen. But all of them other wives that David had were okay. I know somebody had mentioned how when David died, he had just the young lady on him, but they act like his wives were dead. They used that young woman to warm him up. That one young woman he didn't even have sex with. She just laid on him, nude. But he still was married to his wives. And Yah even said, I gave you your master's wives. Basically gave him Shaul's wives, Shaul's wives. And he's like, I would have given you more. There's so many things, we'll go into the dietary law. Yahusha ate fish according to the Brit Hadashah. So if you're only supposed to eat fruits and vegetables and stuff like that, why is he telling them cast your net over here? Why is they sitting up eating fish or whatever? But people will say that's a lie. He didn't eat fish. I seen somebody say something about he ate fish weed. So seaweed, I guess. But that's not what the text say. But again, there's so many different things that, Yah allows for the purpose of his will being done. And these things are not considered sins. They're not transgressions of his law. Like again, that Deuteronomy 25:5 shows that he tells a brother to marry. Come on. The widow of his brother that don't have an heir and provided him an heir. So people will say, well, you're not supposed to multiply. Kings are not supposed to multiply horses. And I'm like, come on. What king only has one horse? Oh, he ain't supposed to multiply. What king only have one piece of gold? I'm like, y'all is reading that all. It's like he's not supposed to have operating greed. That's what it's trying to tell you. He can have multiple. They'll pull up Paul's writing and say, okay, the leader is only supposed to have a husband and one wife. And I'm like, okay, Paul himself also said that when you basically establish any word, you should have 2 or more witnesses. So what is the other witness? What other person What other writer in the Brit Hadashah says that a leader should only have one wife? If every word is supposed to be established by two or more witnesses, Paul's own writings are not established by two or more witnesses. Shaul or Paul, he was one that said you shouldn't even marry, possibly, because he wasn't married. If we followed his example, where would we be? If every believing man, we wouldn't have no believers. We wouldn't have no families. And I'm not knocking Shaul, but come on, think about it. There's so many different things that people don't consider. I was talking to somebody about the circumcision. If somebody is at my age has not been circumcised, that means they already passed the law part of it, which is 8 days. At the eighth day after birth, you're supposed to be circumcised. So of course, I'm 53 years old. If I wasn't circumcised, to think about that, and be like, oh, I don't know if I want to join y'all. You gonna cut on my no. So now you don't make an issue of them being circumcised. You let them come in. And as they study and as they see that requirement, now as they get to know Yah, they say, well, man, maybe I should go and get circumcised. It becomes their own conviction that works on them, not you beating them up and guilting them. And if you started off with that trepidation will whoop them. They're like, no, I'm cool on that. I ain't coming over there for that. If that was the first thing that you want to put on somebody, come on, I'm gonna cut on your PP. Yeah, right. Who gonna volunteer for that? It's like, man, everything else you said sound good, but nah, I'm straight. But once you start walking in something and you grow from milk to meat, you may consider some things that you wouldn't consider at first. Because there's a lot of stuff, like I say, I'm like, when I read all of this that I just got through reading, I'm like, that's crazy. They finna be snatching up wives. That's crazy. There's so much stuff in the Bible that I'm like, but of course, I'm dealing with it from my mindset, from this time frame that I'm in. I'm like, the idea of marrying my brother's wife is like, you know, even if polygyny sounds good, but marrying your brother's wife, like, man, my brother done been with her. What I want with her? But that was a responsibility. It had nothing to do with lust. It was about keeping the wealth in the family, keeping everything in the family. How do you establish the dominion if some of the wealth is constantly going out in situations like that? That brother has a level of wealth from our father, and he died without an heir. Now that woman gonna go take it on to be with a new husband. No, we don't want that to happen. But most of us don't have no wealth. So we don't think like that. We ain't trying to secure the bag. And as we watch popular and mainstream TV, we see athletes and all that losing money to these women all the time. And I'm not knocking women, but I'm like, come on. The man has his wealth and he basically loses it and she go be with another man. She take half and go be with somebody else. So his children ain't get none of that. Her family that she move on with ends up getting that. Because a lot of these men that have lost money in divorce ain't never had no children with the woman. Come on, losing half as well. What kind of kingdom you building if you constantly giving up half your wealth? What kind of dominion do you have if half your strength is always leaving your home? I don't know. Well, Abiyah, I thank you for this day. I thank you for the Shabbat and this opportunity to talk. May those that have constructive criticism bring it forth. May we have greater discussion so that we can reason the text and grow. Um, I don't expect everybody to agree with me, as Yah is many times that I did not agree with your word, and I have learned to change and be willing to be pliable to your will. Some of the stuff I'm still grasping and learning, and may others still be in that position of grasping and learning and be open and pliable to your will being done on earth as it is in the Shamayim. I thank you, Yah, for the Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom and Hallelujah.